Let's just jump into the sadness that was Sunday Night Football for the Detroit Lions. They fall to the Eagles by a score of 16-9, so wasn't really a blowout or anything. You know, it wasn't like they were just destroyed and out of the game the entire way. They were in this game pretty much the entire way. I mean, there was never a point where the game was completely out of reach for them. They didn't have to mount some crazy comeback. The only problem was every time they got into the offensive territory, every time they got into Philly territory, they just would come up with nothing, whether it's, losing it on fourth downs or, not just, I mean, I guess they never missed a field goal, but they did miss an extra point. They had one touchdown all game, and you're not going to win a whole lot of football games in the NFL scoring one touchdown. Now, granted, Philadelphia did that, but we're not going to talk about Philadelphia because I'm going to give all the credit in the world to them. They have one of the best defenses I have ever had the privilege of watching because I know the Lions' offensive line is not great right now, and it's not one of the top units as it was the last couple of years. But that Eagles defense is unreal. Like, they completely shut down the entirety of the Lions' offense. When your leading receiver is a running back, that's how you know that the Eagles did a great job stopping that defense. Amon-Ra had probably the worst game I think I've ever seen him have since maybe he was a rookie, because he was totally shut down. 2 catches were just 42 yards, which is still pretty good, actually, but on 12 targets. So, yeah, not good. Not good stuff. Now, I want to get this out of the way because, unfortunately, as good of a defensive showcase as this game was, unfortunately, the game ended in a little bit of controversy. At the end of the game, Lions get a stop on third down. Rock Ya-Sin on A.J. Brown. Good coverage. He had a pretty nice game on Sunday. And then the flag comes in. And it comes in late. It's not as the play's happening, the flag is thrown. It's incomplete pass, 4th down and 10, or 4th down and whatever it was. Wrong. Here comes the flag, pass interference. Now, I am going to say this. Of course, the Lions, even if there was no PI call, they still would have had to get the punt, to wherever they ended up on field position-wise. They would have had to march down the field, score a touchdown, and get either a extra point successfully kicked or convert on a 2-point conversion to win the game outright. There's a lot that could have gone wrong for them past whether that penalty gets called. But I just have to tell you, and Chris Collinsworth, credit to him on the broadcast, you cannot end a game like that. And he was calling out the referee because it was a terrible call. We just had one of the better defensive games, 2 of the best teams in the NFC, an NFC Championship preview game potentially, and that is how you end the game. Can't do it. Can't do it. Like, just forget about who I'm a fan of, okay? I know I wear the Lions stuff. I do the Lions broadcast. I'm the biggest Lions fan that I know, okay? Forget about all of that. You can't tell me that, number one, that call was justified. It wasn't. It was terrible. It was so obviously and objectively terrible. And secondly, you can't say that I'm only saying this because I'm a Lions fan. And if you are, then congratulations. You are bought and paid for fake news media. I don't know. That is just not how you end a game. And I know Lions had the ball, 1st and goal, didn't score a touchdown. They score a touchdown. We're talking about a tie game, overtime. We could have won the game. The Lions had, 0 for 5 on 4th down in general. They convert 1 or 2 of those. Maybe they end up with a field goal. Maybe they're winning the game in regulation. I don't know. But the point is, that's how the game ended. Lions would have had a minute 47 and a timeout to march down the field. I'm not saying they would have, but they could have. I mean, they did at least once that game. Again, not saying they would have, but they could have. Anyway, on to the actual game at hand. I've already given credit to the Eagles' defense, but the other thing I want to point out is that the Lions' defense should also get credit because they completely shut down the Eagles' offense as well. And now, granted, their offense is also shut down by their offensive coordinator, but forget all of that. They have a lot of elite weapons. A.J. Brown really didn't do that much this game. Devontae Smith was a complete no-show. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 catches. Saquon Barkley did not run all over you. So it's funny. All the talk about a need for, an extra edge rusher, an extra body on the defensive line for the Lions, especially at the trade deadline. Hey, man, it didn't look like they needed it this week, and they didn't need it last week. So I don't know, man. Like, Not saying that you can't get better at any position. You always can, but the defensive line has been playing pretty darn good for the Lions the last few games, honestly, if we're really looking at it in the aggregate, if you include that Tampa Bay game and the Washington game, the defensive line has played quite well. Now, I want to say this because I hate to say I told you so in this regard because it means that I told you so in a very much darker light. But after the Vikings game, I said that, look, this Lions offensive line, it's just not quite there. It's not what it was before, certainly, with Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. It's not what it was in 23 with, oh my gosh, what's his name? I can't even think of his name. Not Hal Vaitai. Jonah Jackson. You know, you got Penei Sewell out there who's excellent, but he's not as good at pass protection. You got Taylor Decker, who's really good, but he's getting old and, you know, he can only do so much. Then you got the rookie Tate Ratledge, who I think has been fine, at least fine enough, and he's a rookie. He can get better. He has room to get better. You got Graham Glasgow, who's a decent player, but he's playing out of position. He's not really a center. And you put it all together, and you also got Coyote Awashika, who, again, is a decent depth piece, but he's no Christian Mahogany, who is, again, one of these guys who, you know, a solid depth piece, or not a solid depth piece, solid late-round pick by Brad Holmes to help bolster the offensive line, a developing player. And you put it all together, and, you know, you're unable to establish the run. Jared Goff doesn't have the kind of protection that he needs to be able to go through his reads and find the open man. Look, and Ben Johnson, he made this point in his press conference, and I think it's a similar offense that we still run even though he's gone. He's not looking for these one-on-one, you know, just beat the defender. The offense that is run here is an offense where guys are schemed open. So if Goff is unable to get through the reads because, you know, Jalen Phillips is coming at his head, you're going to have a tough time running an offense. And, you know, it's on Goff to be able to overcome the adversity. It's on the offensive line to be able to execute. And it's on Dan Campbell and John Morton to be able to adjust to the in-game situation. And I don't come away from this game that upset, except for obviously the PI call. I come away thinking, okay, we don't really have the offensive line. What are we going to do about it? Well, a little bit of a look ahead for our schedule. There's an opportunity for us to get a little bit on a roll. So this Sunday, we play the Giants at home. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm pretty confident that that's a win. Okay? I'm pretty confident that's a win. Then you got the Packers at home for Thanksgiving. I got a feeling that ever since week 1, that Packer game has been circled, highlighted, underlined, the whole shebang, and the Packers are worse than they were when you played them. No Tucker Kraft. They're Josh Jacobs. Who knows what his status is going to be? He might be okay. He might not be okay. He's going to have to play another game this week, and he'll be on short rest from there. You know, your defense, I think, has gotten better. You know, you went from, you know, not having Aleem McNeil in week 1 to now having Aleem McNeil to be able to help bolster the middle of that line there on the defense. And then you got the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. And I know they just come off a big win against the Las Vegas Raiders. All 3 of those games, as far as I'm concerned, are winnable. And if you go out and you win those 3 in a row, we'll be right back in it. Because then you'll got the Rams on the road, 4:30 game of the week on Fox. And that will be your second to last real opportunity to make your presence known. Because look, as much as the standings in the NFC North are concerning for me, we're third in the NFC North going into the week into Thanksgiving, which is obviously very different than where we were last year. We still got a lot on our plate. We still got a big opportunity to be able to get right back into this. And I'm sorry. You can believe in the Bears. Your friends can believe in the Bears. Your own mother can believe in the Bears. But I will not believe in the Bears. The Bears, I will, you know what? I'm fine if this is aging like cheese on a summer afternoon in Houston. That was just a city that I thought. I don't care. The Bears are not winning the NFC North. The Packers might. They got a really good defense. The Lions might. They can get things going, especially if their defense is able to keep them in games and their offensive line play improves with, you know, potentially Mahogany coming back at some point. I'm not totally sure on that. But the Bears are not winning this division. And if they are, it's going to be an ugly win for the division. But you know what? A win is a win for the division. So I'll give them credit if they do. But anyway, you got 3 games in a row here right in front of you that I think you can go on a roll. And these are all 3 home games. These are games that I think going into this season, Lions fans comfortably would have said that they think the Lions are going to win. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable they're going to win these games too. But you got to actually execute. And if the offensive line play continues to struggle, Brad Holmes is going to have a job in front of him. He's going to have to fix this offensive line, because if he doesn't fix the offensive line, the offense is just not going to work no matter who the play caller is. So in a weird way, I was upset about the Lions losing. I'm always upset about the Lions losing. For anybody who thinks I'm just some, sycophantic homer, I'm always upset when the Lions lose. But in this particular way, I was like, okay, Eagles defense played out of their mind. If you run this game back, do you really think the Eagles are going to win it exactly the way they did? I mean, Lions went 0 for 5 on fourth down. Is that really something that you think is sustainable for Philadelphia? No, I just don't think so. Especially when some of those offers were on drop passes or Jared Goff missing a read that, he sees Brock Wright on that one play. We're talking about a tie game, 13-13, late in the game. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do. The game is over. And look, I'm on to New York. I'm on to the Giants. So we got a chance for a get-right game. Lions haven't lost back-to-back games in 3 years. Then again, they hadn't gone 0 for 5 on fourth down in 3 years, and that happened on Sunday. So all things are possible. If you lose to the Giants, then we're in full-on panic mode. Everything is in utter chaos. We need to freak out. Brad Holmes needs to fix this team, because we're at that point, yeah, it's not possible. But as far as whether we can still call this team a Super Bowl team, you can, but it's going to be tough. You can, in as much as, look, if the offensive line executes, if Jared Goff executes, if you get healthy on both the defensive side and part of the offensive side, you could, because you played real close with that Philly team. You did. So we'll see. I'm on to New York. That's all I got to say about that. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.